Welcome to the InnovA podcast, a place for auction business owners who have built successful operations but now want to scale their companies and leave a lasting legacy in the industry. If you want more growth, less grind, you've come to the right place.
Hello and welcome back to the InnovA podcast, where we talk about the business of auctions, technology, and the people reshaping how this industry grows. Today, we're diving into a story about one of our customers who made a bold move. They shifted from the marketplace dependence to full brand ownership and saved over $150,000 in their first year. Jodi, let's dive in. Tell us about this story. So tell me about the marketplace and how you guys are thinking through this, and we'll jump into a real example of one of your clients.
That's great. So we had a customer, and several customers, but I won't give specifics, to where we talked about the advantages of marketplaces. So just so that it's known, InnovA is not against marketplaces. We highly believe in them. They played a huge role in expanding the reach globally for auctioneers, myself, when I owned auction companies. But what we're talking about today is how we use a marketplace strategically rather than depending on them entirely.
That's great. So what I'm hearing from you is marketplaces, if you're thinking about strategically how to grow your business as an auction owner, marketplaces have an incredible place to fit. They're really great to grow quickly, get started, get traction in the market, figure out things as you're starting out. But there's some point where maybe that breaks down, or some point in your growth journey where there is some longer term costs associated with that. Even though it's got that convenience, there's a long-term cost associated with it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. You got it just right. So it's not just a percentage of sales fee that's there, or listing fees, or advertising, or whatever it is, that sometimes people don't think about, that you're actually losing data and relationships that you're building with your customers. They're there because they're interested in your inventory. And so every time a bidder registers through a marketplace instead of your storefront, you start to lose insights into who that customer is, what they're interested in, how to bring them back for the next sell. So if you've got, 50 trucks for sale and real estate for sale, and you've got, 500, 1,000 different bidders that register, but they don't all start bidding, what are you learning about your customers? You're not learning anything. You're just hoping that so many people show up. You can't build a marketing plan without data. I didn't know how important data was until I started a technology company, but it's black and white. We make decisions in this world with data. So InnovA is going to help empower our customers to start being proactive with data and not just be hopeful that their customers are going to start attending for their next auction that they're scheduling.
That's right. So there's a lot of different, correlates you can make in different industries. You have Spotify in the music industry, or Etsy in the crafts industry, where you have, or Uber, in the taxi transportation industry, where you get on this marketplace, you get customers, but there's some downsides. So I want to talk about a real example of what this shift looked like for a client of yours. So Tell us about that. And you mentioned this term, or this number, $150,000 was their savings. So talk to me about that.
So, and we haven't, with this customer, they also understood very much so that one of their highest costs, other than brick and mortar and employees, is the percentage of sales that they pay to these third-party providers in marketplaces, which is, it's a cost of business. I understand that. But that marketplace, and the marketplace has helped them grow globally. We're very thankful for that. But we all need to look at lowering our cost of our business operations, no matter what it is. So we looked at the cost of this particular customer, and without making a whole lot of effort, other than adding a new login on their storefront for their true white label, their customer, their brand, their customers started logging in, and a very small percentage actually saved them $150,000 a year. So if we put marketing campaigns towards this buyer conversion, we're going to save our customers a lot more money. So that is what we're looking for. We're not trying to eliminate the marketplace. We're trying to reduce our cost and we're trying to lower our marketing spends, because on top of percentage of sales, we're still spending a lot of money. We, meaning auction companies, I partner with them. So I got to think about which hat I'm wearing, because I'm an auctioneer, but I also owned auction companies, but now I'm not in that role. Now I'm in the tech company. So sometimes when I say we, I literally mean my customers, that I'm involved in it with them. So, but we've got to think about what our marketing spends are, how we can do better so that we can continue to grow our company and use our dollars in the right places.
And I can imagine, of course, it grows in value over time, talking about repeat traffic, and it's for your brand, and you're starting to build that customer loyalty over time. So there's more to this story, but I want to get back to the ownership component of the data. So I know that's a key component of thinking about, leveraging marketplaces versus the white label option. So talk to me a little bit more about data ownership and what that means for you and for clients like this, and how you've seen that transition take place.
That's a great question. And it's something that I still feel like I'm educating many of our customers. Like, they're aware of it. They're aware that they want to own their data, but they're not aware of not everyone, but a lot of customers are not aware of how powerful their data is and what it means as a business owner to own that data. So when you're in control of your data, to me, you're in control of your destiny. So right now, with you when you just have all of your repeat customers going through the marketplace, think about that over time. And how do you get to know your buyers whenever you don't own that data? What value does it add to your company as an asset? In 2025, data is an asset. So other than your brick and mortar, what assets do you have in an auction business? Data is a key component of it. Relationships, return buyers, that's a key component of it. If you had to put $1 on the price of your company, what would it be without data ownership?
That's right. That's right. So I can imagine that we have some listeners that are like, okay, yes, but transitioning away from a marketplace or adding other, revenue streams or customer engagement streams, it sounds risky. It sounds hard. I'm not sure I want to do this.
Yes.
So what was it like for your client who went through this and pulled this off? Like, what was the process? What did that look like for them?
Yeah, I understand the risk. I did it myself. I used a marketplace for 17 years, and very thankful that I did, because it grew my business globally. Like I said, my buyer audience continued to grow. But what I started to learn is around 80% of my customers were return customers. And I was paying, the customer was returning because they liked my inventory. But in order to do this conversion, it doesn't just happen overnight. But InnovA, we will help you build a phased plan that you can put into your promotions, your marketing campaigns. But I'm not saying leave the marketplace. We want to utilize the marketplace and strategically think about the advantages and sometimes disadvantages of a marketplace. So we want to look at who we are converting, why we are converting these customers over to the white label, and what the advantages are in converting them. And so in one specific example of a customer, 50% of their bidders logged in directly through their own storefront. In the past, so many of my customers didn't have inventory on their storefront. Their buyers would go get marketing. They would, from whatever marketing company, maybe Facebook, maybe a newspaper, maybe, a digital ad of some sort. So they would get this ad. They would come to the auction house's storefront. There was no inventory there. There were just links to the marketplace. And so now when bidders come to the new storefronts, that is 100% white label, a true white label, 50% of these bidders logged in, they could view inventory, so their buyer experience was better. 36% of these bidders were now new white label bidders that they are not paying a percentage of sales for. The only thing they're paying for is their own advertising dollars that they were already spending anyway. So yes, it could be a scary transition. However, what I tell my customers is keep doing what you're doing. Do exactly what you're doing. Don't change anything except for add a link to your storefront so that your customers can view your inventory and they can bid or register on what they want. And you don't have to change anything else. We're not cutting ties We're not shifting control. We're doing business as normal, and then watch and let it prove itself out.
I love that. I love that. I like what you say. Like it's not necessarily cutting ties from the marketplace, but just thinking differently about your business and the way that you're relating to your customers and just the way you're presenting yourself. I mean, there's the back end information, there's data, there's all that kind of stuff, but it's really just relating to your customers in a new way, which is long term, very healthy.
Yes.
Adds value to your business. So, okay, let's think about we've got a user or we've got a listener who is considering what this might look like for their business. How can they begin to like wrap their minds around that? What does it look like for somebody's business? How do they begin to think about it?
Yeah, it can seem complex. It is pretty simple. Well, to me, but I also spend a lot of time studying this stuff. Like it's my passion is how can I help my customers? And I want to back up and say something real quick about InnovA. I think one thing that I've learned by talking to hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of auction companies, and there's many what we would call competitors in the software space. And what I've learned about InnovA is that we are a comprehensive end-to-end business solution that manages auctions. We are more of a consulting type service that provides technology. And so when I look at this business situation that we're talking about, I'm looking at what are you spending? How much do your employees cost? What is your advertising cost? What is your brick and mortar cost? What is your percentage sales cost? Because that's just the cost of doing business. All right, let's look at it and see what we're getting back for each one of these things. Are your employees effective? Is your advertising effective? Is your, whatever it is. So we look at it and then we start to see trends. But what I ended up building was a calculator so that we could see the ROI for each of these things, and specifically marketplace fees and what it would look like. Whenever I very first started with this other customer, I had a gut feeling of how much money I was going to be able to save for them, but I didn't know exactly what it was, but we're pretty spot on. So, but I've been able to perfect this calculator. So if I'm talking with a prospect and I go through the scenario with them, I say, how would you like to save $150,000 this year? With my previous customer, we were able to say, how did it feel to save $42,000 in the first hour of doing this with very little effort? How did that feel? I personally love money, so I love saving money. I'm really good at spending it too, but I love saving it, and I especially love saving other people's money for them. It's been so rewarding to see this side of this business.
I love how on the nose you are about like this is a business. There's costs associated with it. And costs that you can save, but it's also about growth as well, like long term. Like so you're thinking like very short term, the first hour, the first day, your first auction. But then you're also thinking like, okay, 10 years from now, you want to sell this business or you want to grow this business in a different direction. Here's what that looks like over the long term. I think it's such a cool way. Yeah. And obviously, every business owner is going to connect with that. But I just love how you're just getting right to the heart of it right up front.
Well, and it's hard because sometimes people are like, that's unbelievable. No, that's not going to happen. I'm like, well, I've done it. So it's happening for several of my customers. If you don't want to save money, fine. We won't help you. But not really. But it seems unbelievable sometimes. But it really is happening. And what whenever I very first started InnovA, one of the things that I kept mapping in my mind was brand independence is something that kept resonating with me. And that I had become dependent on other people building my business. And so I wanted to become independent so that I could be in somewhat of a control. So what we're doing is just still figuring out how to use all of these tools and resources that we have available to us. But we also need to figure out how to build a bridge back to our brand, who we are, what we're building, what our legacy is. Because to me, there's a lot of family businesses out here that are legacies that they plan on leaving it to their sons, their daughters, and their grandchildren. And they all work in the business, aunts, uncles, I don't care who it is, but it's a legacy. So what is the value of this business? We're not just working and grinding to not build the value of something. We want to build dollars back to our brand, our customers back to our brand, to our name. A lot of times it's a family name. That is so important. And I love seeing the results of that.
I love that. So what I'm understanding, if I could summarize, so we
Please.
talked first about how marketplaces are an amazing component of your business growth strategy as an auction business owner, but there's a cost to that long term. And so we looked at what that looked like for a client of yours who was able to, in the first year, save $150,000 by just rethinking their strategy and the kind of the technology underlying that. But the larger picture is that business ownership, a core component of the asset value of your business, is actually the data and the direct relationship that you have with your customers. And that gives you back control for your brand and your future, where you're able to shift that control backwards to the brand. And you can see that play out in the costs that you're saving on the business side. So the financial part makes sense. But then long term, you start to get back that freedom or that independence to run the business your way and to do what you want with your legacy.
It's all about you. Yeah, for us, it's all about our customers and just really trying to help them get to the next level.
I love that. Okay. Any other takeaways for our listeners that might be just trying to wrap their heads around what this might look like, or thinking about their businesses or things that you've done in your business through shifting or rethinking your relationship with marketplaces?
I think at this point, you probably know me well enough that I could talk to you forever about this, but I just think it's so important to constantly be looking at how you can grow personally and for your business. We show up every day to do well and to do better. So that's what I want to help my customers do, and to help them look at the value of their business, the thing that they're trying to build. And that's what I love helping people do.
Awesome. Well, we are just getting started in this story. We talked about that in the first episode, and this is the second episode now, and then we've got many, many more planned. And so if you want to stay abreast on what is happening with InnovA, please go to innovallc.com. That's INNOVALLC.com. And there you will see very soon, you'll see blogs, newsletters, articles, these podcast resources available to help grow your business, and we're here to serve you. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Brandon.